At 3 in the morning, I woke up with a strong urge to urinate. Groggy, I grabbed my phone and walked into the bathroom, intending to browse some short videos while taking care of my needs. As the screen lit up, I saw a system notification. Password entered incorrectly 5 times in a row. Please try again in 8 minutes. I was stunned and couldn't help but read the message aloud. But then it hit me, something felt off. I usually use my fingerprint to unlock my phone. There was no way I could have entered the password incorrectly 5 times. Besides, I had just woken up and hadn't entered anything at all. A cold sweat trickled down my back, and the drowsiness that lingered moments before vanished instantly. I recalled that, according to the factory settings, the phone locks for 10 minutes after too many incorrect attempts. That meant that just 2 minutes before, someone had been in my room trying to unlock my phone. And that person might still be in my house. Realizing this, I quickly locked the bathroom door and typed an emergency text. After ensuring I accurately described my address and situation, I sent the message to 12110. With that done, I leaned against the bathroom wall, my heart racing and my legs slightly trembling with anxiety. Fortunately, the police system is efficient. Community stations have officers on duty 24 hours a day, and they can typically arrive within 10 minutes of receiving a distress signal. This method was something I had learned from a legal education program just a few days ago, and now it was coming in handy. I looked at my phone, which showed delivered. I let out a small sigh of relief. It was early morning, and everything around me was silent. I bit my lip, trying to stay calm, but the thought that an intruder might be outside the door made my adrenaline surge, leaving my mouth dry. I swallowed hard, trying to steady my racing heart while straining to listen. Minutes passed in complete silence. I glanced at my phone again. It was 3:05. It had been exactly 5 minutes since I sent the message. I started to replay everything that had just happened in my mind, and a wave of doubt washed over me. Could it have been that I accidentally bumped my phone in my sleep and inadvertently triggered the lock? I nodded to myself. This was indeed a possibility. I often toss and turn in my sleep, and I wake up in completely different positions. Perhaps I had triggered the lock screen without realizing it. Regardless, as a young woman living alone, it was better to be cautious, especially since the police hadn't confirmed anything yet. I tightened my grip on my phone and held my breath, barely daring to move. Just then, a rustling sound came from behind me. I gasped, my heart racing in my chest. Against the wall, a faint flickering light suddenly appeared. A chill ran from my toes to my fingertips. It looked like someone was standing right behind me. A voice in my mind urged me, turn around. Turn around. Turn around. In the end, I couldn't suppress my intense curiosity. I mechanically turned my head, and it was just the bathroom window that I hadn't closed. The autumn wind was strong on the 18th floor, and the shutters were flapping restlessly, brushing against each other and creating a rustling sound. In the dead of night, this noise, which would normally pass unnoticed, now stood out starkly. What a relief it was! To ensure ventilation and avoid odors, I generally kept the bathroom window open around the clock, even at night. I probably just panicked and overlooked this detail. I felt a wave of embarrassment wash over me, scolding myself for being so forgetful. However, just as I was about to breathe a sigh of relief, a shadow suddenly flitted past my feet. This time, I clearly recognized it. That was definitely not the shadow of the blinds. It was the silhouette of a person coming through the gap under the bathroom door from the living room. My pupils dilated in shock. That person was indeed still in my house. Before I could react, a loud shattering sound echoed from outside. I jolted, quickly determining that the intruder had broken my living room vase. Holding my breath, I crouched low, slowly lowering myself to the ground, lower, lower, lower. When I peered through the gap under the door, I saw half of a man's face, twisted in a menacing expression. Ah, my scream shattered the night, the piercing sound echoing through the air. I nearly dropped my phone, which crashed to the floor with a dull thud. I couldn't afford to reach for it immediately, fearing that the intruder might burst through the door at any moment. My body went rigid, my eyes fixed on the shadow outside. However, the man outside seemed startled by my scream. He stood still for a moment, breathing heavily as if surveying the surroundings. Then, he ran towards the front door. A series of hurried footsteps followed, and with a loud bang, the front door slammed shut. I trembled all over at the deafening sound. After that, the outside fell silent once more. I bit my tongue. The metallic taste of blood brought me back to my senses. My chest was heaving, and beads of sweat were dripping down my forehead. He ran away? If I heard the sound of the door, that meant the man had indeed left my home, right? No. I shook my head and wiped the thin layer of sweat from my brow. What if this was a trick to make me feel safe? Perhaps he was hoping I would let my guard down and come out, allowing him to attack me. He might be lurking in the living room, waiting for the right moment. I picked up my phone from the floor, wiped the screen, and noticed several cracks across it, no doubt from hitting the tile. Thankfully, the police had just responded, advising me to stay calm, protect myself, and avoid provoking the intruder. They assured me that help would arrive within 5 to 10 minutes. A wave of relief washed over me. The police were on their way. This was undoubtedly a powerful shot of adrenaline. If I could hold out just a little longer, I would be safe. I looked around the bathroom, grabbed a mop from the corner, and held it defensively towards the door. It would be a while before the police arrived, and anything could happen in the meantime. Right now, I had no other tools to defend myself, so I had to make do. If that man came back, I couldn't just wait to be attacked. With this in mind, I opened my contact list and found Uncle Bob, the property staff on duty in my community. I quickly sent him a message. "Uncle Bob, there's a thief in my apartment. I just called the police." The thief ran outside when he was spotted. "Please keep an eye out for anyone trying to leave the building tonight. If you see anyone suspicious, stop them. If you're not sure, just remember their appearance and body type and let the police handle it." "Thank you." I used several exclamation marks to emphasize the urgency of the situation. Uncle Bob was a man in his 30s or 40s who had reportedly achieved financial freedom through successful investments and became bored at home, so he took the job at our community. He was well-built and should be able to handle most petty criminals. His duty room was on the first floor of our building, so he could keep an eye on everyone coming and going. After I sent the message, I anxiously watched my screen, fearing I might miss Uncle Bob's reply. Thankfully, he responded quickly. "Got it. Don't worry, I'll check the surveillance cameras." I felt a surge of gratitude. "Yes, the police should arrive soon. You can assist them when they get here." I had no other options left. Recently, I had used all my savings to buy this apartment, finally ending my cycle of moving and renting. If I didn't catch that criminal soon, I feared I wouldn't be able to sleep soundly at night again. After 2 or 3 minutes, I received another message from Uncle Bob.
"Hey, I didn't sleep tonight, and there's nobody leaving the building right now. I haven't heard anything either. I checked the surveillance. After midnight, no one has entered or exited our building."
I furrowed my brow at this. "How strange." I replied.
"Uncle Bob, I'm not joking. I saw a strange man in my house. He might have hidden somewhere in the building already. The stairwell doesn't have cameras. He could be hiding there."
Realizing that I sounded a bit frantic, I added,
"Don't worry, Uncle. Thank you. I'm sure the police will catch him once they arrive."
Although I hoped Uncle Bob would catch the man, this was ultimately the police's responsibility. If Uncle Bob got hurt trying to help me, I couldn't bear that burden. Oddly enough, after my last message, the previously enthusiastic Uncle Bob stopped replying. I set my phone down and felt the weight of anxiety pressing down on me in the dark of night. But soon, there was a loud knocking at the front door. Bang! 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 The knocking was sharp and loud, echoing in the stillness of the night, startling me completely. Could it be that the intruder had returned? Cold sweat broke out as I thought about it. I didn't dare to think any further and quickly hid in the bathroom, messaging 12110 to ask when the police would arrive. watching the police respond that they would be there shortly. I gripped my phone tightly. Come on, hurry up, hurry up. I silently prayed. However, the knocking outside gradually turned into banging. Bang! 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 Just as I braced myself with the mop, ready for a fight, a woman's voice came from outside. Is anyone there? Lily, are you home? If you're there, open the door. I froze for a moment. I recognized that voice. It was Lisa, my neighbor from across the hall.
Lily, are you there? Is something wrong? I thought I heard something strange in your apartment. Are you okay? Don't scare us! Open the door quickly!
Lisa shouted while banging on the door, her voice sounding hoarse and anxious. Lisa was known for her warmth in our community and had always looked out for me. I remembered that when I had just moved in, it was New Year's Eve, and she had noticed I was spending the holiday alone. She brought me some dumplings she had made herself. Last week, when my kitchen pipe burst, it was Lisa who sent her husband to help fix it. So, it made sense that she had been woken by my scream and was rushing over to check on me. I placed the mop against the bathroom door and slightly opened it, allowing me to hear more clearly. It was indeed Lisa outside my door. But I still couldn't fully relax. I held the mop tightly and stepped cautiously out of the bathroom, inching my way to the entrance. After ensuring there was no one else at home, I carefully approached the peephole and looked outside. But I saw nothing, just darkness. Was something blocking the peephole? I frowned. Just as I was wondering, that darkness shifted suddenly, revealing a bloodshot eye. It turned out that there was nothing blocking the peephole. The person outside was pressing their face against it, trying to look inside. I felt a wave of dizziness and instinctively stumbled back a few steps. My legs gave way, and I collapsed onto the floor. A voice came again from outside.
Lily, Lily, can you hear me? If you're okay, please say something. Uncle Bob from the property management is here too. We're all worried about you.
Flashing red and blue lights lit up the night sky as several police cars parked outside my building. On the sofa, Lisa was sitting beside me, comforting me. 2 officers were searching my apartment, while others, guided by Uncle Bob, were checking the surveillance footage and other suspicious areas in the building. Many residents had also been awakened and gathered at my door, murmuring among themselves. The officers were calming them down while asking if anyone had seen anything suspicious that night. Watching all this, Lisa hugged me tightly. Poor thing, you must be so scared. I felt a warm surge of gratitude. It turned out that after Uncle Bob received my message, he immediately put down his phone and rushed upstairs. When he reached the 18th floor, he ran into Lisa, who had come to check on me after being woken up. Since I hadn't responded, they both grew anxious and peered through the peephole to see what was happening, which scared me. I'm so sorry for the misunderstanding, I said sheepishly to Lisa. As long as you're okay, that's what matters. Lisa smiled, gently patting my head and soothing me. Just then, one of the officers asked me as part of their routine, Miss Chin, did you see the intruder's face? It was too dark in there, and I didn't turn on the lights. I recalled the earlier events feeling a bit disoriented. Then I quickly added,
But I'm certain it was a man. And I remember the time, it was definitely no later than 3:10.
The officer nodded, taking notes as he listened. He then asked me several other questions. However, I was frustrated that I couldn't provide more useful information since I had been hiding in the bathroom and hardly knew what was happening outside. Just as I was lamenting my lack of details, a few officers conducting the outside search came in with an update.
Captain, we checked the property surveillance, and there were indeed no outsiders entering or exiting the building tonight, and no suspicious individuals have been found in the area. Additionally, Miss Chin lives on the 18th floor, so the intruder must have entered through the main door.
I jumped up anxiously.
What about the bathroom? My bathroom window is always open. Could he have used some kind of rope or tool to lower himself down from the roof?
The young male officer looked at me and smiled. Miss Chin, this isn't a movie. Given the structure of modern staircases, the method you mentioned is very difficult to execute in practice. Even if the intruder did manage it, they couldn't do it without leaving a trace. Our inspection found no marks on the walls outside any of your windows, so we can completely rule out that scenario. Hearing the officer's words, I turned my gaze toward the front door. So it seems the intruder did enter through the front door. My front door has a keypad lock. Upon hearing my comment, the officer nodded, confirming my assumption. Some brands of keypad locks are of poor quality, so it's possible someone could have obtained your password. Many people tend to use birthdays or anniversaries as their codes, which can be easily guessed by someone familiar. Additionally, passers-by could notice you entering your code. I sighed. I hadn't been unaware of the downsides of keypad locks, but I've always been a bit careless. I frequently forgot my keys and ended up giving local locksmiths a lot of business. After much deliberation, I had decided to install a keypad lock for my home. The police continued their search. As time ticked by, it quickly reached 4 o'clock. Seeing that they hadn't found anyone, neighbors began to whisper among themselves. "Miss, it's getting late. Why don't we let the police check tomorrow?" "Yeah, I have to work early in the morning." "Don't worry, if you ever see that bad guy again, just scream and we'll all come to help. With all this commotion tonight, he surely won't dare come back." "Exactly, just don't be scared." Even Uncle Bob, who had been so helpful just moments ago, said to me, "Miss, I haven't seen anyone around here tonight. Maybe you're just feeling the stress from work and seeing things?" I clenched my fists, struggling to think of how to retort. Lisa shot Uncle Bob a fierce look. "It's because you were negligent that the bad guy got away." Sensing tensions rising between them, I hurriedly stepped in. Given that we had spent so much time already, and that midnight investigations would disturb other residents, I suggested to the police that we continue the investigation tomorrow. My neighbors praised my consideration for the bigger picture. The police agreed, briefly outlined the progress made and the direction of future inquiries, and assured me they would follow up. I thanked everyone and planned to let them go home. Just then, Lisa suddenly said resolutely, "Lily, I'm still worried about you being alone. How about this? I'll go back, tell my husband, and grab some blankets. I'll stay here with you tonight." Before I could refuse, she waved her hand and rushed off. "Wait for me. I'll be right back after I change." My eyes felt moist. I hadn't expected Lisa to be so thoughtful, truly taking my well-being into account. As I escorted everyone out, the officer at the back noticed the doorbell installed outside. "Does this have a camera function?" I smiled wryly. "It's just a regular doorbell, but it seems I really need to install a camera now." The officer nodded, offered me a few reassuring words, and then left. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling blankly. Lisa had already fallen asleep beside me, breathing steadily. I tucked her blanket around her, but I felt wide awake. Recalling the events of the night, everything felt so strange. I flipped over and checked my phone. It was 4:48 a.m. Nearly 2 hours had passed since I first spotted that suspicious man. Where could he have hidden for so long? Suddenly, a horrifying thought crept into my mind. Since there had been no outsiders entering the building, could it mean that the intruder was someone from the building itself? A shiver ran down my spine. I didn't dare entertain that thought any longer and decided to close my eyes, forcing myself to get some rest. I needed to gather my strength so I could assist the police better in their investigation. I turned off my phone, the screen going dark. In the reflection, I caught sight of 2 faces. One was mine. The other was Lisa's. My pupils dilated in shock, and I immediately sat up in bed.
"Lisa, are you awake?"
Once I realized, I hastily patted my chest, trying to calm myself. That earlier feeling of panic surged back within me. Lily Chin didn't answer my question but changed the subject instead.
"Lily, have you ever considered a possibility?" "What possibility?"
I was taken aback.
"Do you think the intruder you mentioned could actually be Uncle Bob from property management?" "What do you mean?"
Lisa looked at me knowingly and said,
"Don't you all think that Uncle Bob doesn't need money and took this job just to pass the time?"
When I nodded in agreement, Lisa continued, "But only I know that he actually lost his job at a big company when he turned 35 and couldn't find another one. He had no choice but to work as property staff. I overheard him talking to his family last time I walked past the duty room. It's not impossible for someone at the fringes of society to commit burglary." I swallowed hard and instinctively countered. "But the police said the surveillance. His duty room is on the first floor, and he hasn't left the building at all, so of course, the entrance surveillance wouldn't catch him." Lisa interrupted me firmly.
And even if the surveillance did capture something suspicious, as a former programmer, he could easily manipulate the video content.
She gave me a meaningful look.
After all, video evidence is just digital footage. If he wanted to alter it, it shouldn't be a problem.
Her words sent chills down my spine, and my heart raced. After a moment of thought, I said, "Then, I'll tell the police tomorrow to change the focus of their investigation to Uncle Bob."
No, we need to tell the police right now.
Lisa took my phone and handed it back to me.
As long as he's still out there, your safety isn't guaranteed.
Looking into Lisa's eyes, I felt a surge of gratitude and nodded. I quickly unlocked my phone, ready to dial 110 to report it. But just as I opened the dialer, a sudden chill ran down my spine. I instinctively turned around. To my horror, Lisa, who had seemed so friendly just moments ago, was now holding a sharp knife high in the air. I screamed and quickly dove to the side. My hand slipped, and my phone fell to the floor. The knife crashed down onto the bed, almost slicing through the blanket.
Lisa, what are you doing?
I yelled in fear, completely bewildered by the situation. What was happening? Why was Lisa attacking me? I scrambled to my feet, not even bothering to put on my shoes, and bolted for the door. But I soon realized I didn't have my phone. Turning back, I locked eyes with Lisa, whose eyes were now bloodshot and manic. Her features had twisted into a terrifying visage. "You little brat, pretending to be innocent? Keep pretending. How about you don't run, huh? Just accept your fate." I realized the knife in Lisa's hand was a large kitchen knife, extremely sharp, likely meant for chopping bones. The blade glinted ominously, with fluff from the blanket drifting down.
Lisa, you've lost it?
My lips trembled, and my legs felt weak, but I summoned all my strength and fled. As I reached the living room, I tripped over something. Thud. I lost my balance and fell heavily to the floor. It turned out I had tripped over the mop I had left by the door. I cursed my luck. But Lisa was already swinging the knife and rushing toward me. In a split second, I snatched up the mop and swung it at her face. The water from the mop splashed into her eyes, and she let out a pain scream, her movements slowing considerably. Seizing the opportunity, I quickly got to my feet and desperately ran out of my apartment. Once outside, I dashed to the elevator, but despair washed over me when I saw that it was currently on the first floor. I was running out of time. I had no choice but to sprint toward the staircase, racing down as quickly as I could. Before I knew it, my face and body were drenched with a mixture of sweat and tears. Wiping my forehead, I kept thinking, I was certain that the first person who sneaked into my home tonight was a man. Could that man really be Uncle Bob from property management? But what was Lisa's involvement? I had no quarrel with her. Why was she trying to harm me? What was her connection to that man? My mind was a chaotic mess. I knew I wouldn't figure any of this out. I just needed to escape the building. Fire! 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 Everyone wake up! Run! I yelled while running, hoping to attract the attention of the other residents. When I glanced back, I saw Lisa moving casually, yet somehow she was getting closer and closer. I couldn't afford to stop. Even though my leg muscles were screaming in pain and the taste of blood was in my mouth, I pushed myself onward with sheer will. Suddenly, I stumbled and fell down the stairs. Cringing in pain, I clutched my leg, trying again and again to stand up, but I found I simply couldn't. It felt like my muscles had been completely torn. Lisa had caught up with me during this time. She stood about 2 meters away at the staircase landing. Summoning my last ounce of strength, I shouted.
Why? Please, stop! Someone will be here soon!
I yelled at Lisa, hoping to buy myself a moment. To my shock, she laughed at my plea.
Ha ha ha! Why?
And you're still trying to put on an act at this point. Lisa looked at me mockingly, but her words made no sense to me. Before I could say anything more, she lunged at me again with the knife. This time, I closed my eyes in despair, bracing myself for the inevitable. Just then, a figure dashed forward and tackled Lisa. "Run, run!" Uncle Bob shouted. He managed to pin the struggling Lisa down and bit her wrist. She screamed in pain, and the knife slipped from her grasp. "Get the hell away from me!" she yelled defiantly. But without the knife, she couldn't overpower Uncle Bob, a grown man. "I knew it was you." Uncle Bob glared at Lisa. Instead of fleeing on my own, I gritted my teeth and struggled to get up. I managed to stumble over to them and kicked the knife away from where it had fallen. Finally, I let out a long breath of relief. Seeing this, Lisa, who was once again trying desperately to reach the knife, became even more frenzied. It was as if she had lost her last shred of sanity, shouting insults at me. Her voice drew the attention of other neighbors. Soon, everyone and the police arrived. The next morning at the police station, after taking Lisa's statement, the officers explained the situation to me. It turned out the man who had sneaked into my apartment was Lisa's husband, Jake Smith. Jake had grown dissatisfied with Lisa, who he considered to be aging and unattractive, and had taken a younger mistress. While Lisa was out, he brought his lover into their home repeatedly, enjoying their time together. As luck would have it, on one occasion after they had finished, Jake happened to notice the doorbell I had installed on the wall. It filled him with panic, as he mistakenly thought it had a camera that had recorded their activities. To prevent me from discovering this, he planned to destroy the evidence before I noticed. Jake was aware that modern electronics are smart. Even if he destroyed the camera, the footage would have already been uploaded to my phone. So, he spent several days lurking in the hallway, appearing to casually chat with me while actually keeping an eye on my password input. Because I had received help from Lisa and him before, I didn't suspect anything during our conversations. Jake quickly figured out my home password. On the night of the incident, he successfully used the password to enter my home, intending to find the app that connected to the camera and delete the recordings. But when he picked up my phone, he found there was an additional lock screen. After 5 incorrect attempts, the phone locked him out. Frustrated and desperate, he hurriedly left the bedroom and hid in the living room as I rolled over in my sleep. He hadn't anticipated that I would figure out what was wrong with my phone so quickly and cause such a commotion. Jake rushed to escape back home, but he unexpectedly ran into Lisa, who had woken up and was looking for him. Already suspicious that her husband was cheating, she exploded with rage and immediately confronted Jake, demanding to know where he had been while she was asleep. In a moment of desperation, Jake lied and said that his mistress was actually living across the hall, me, Lily. To seek Lisa's forgiveness, he even fabricated a story claiming that he had wanted to end our improper relationship all along and that he had only come to talk about breaking up. But he hadn't anticipated that I, being greedy, would threaten to report him for rape when he refused to marry me. Amazingly, Lisa believed his ludicrous lie without question and became determined to eliminate me, the shameless mistress. When she stormed to my door, she coincidentally ran into Uncle Bob from property management. Weighing her options, she pretended to be concerned for me and teamed up with Uncle Bob to bang on my door. I now understood everything. After the police arrived, Lisa feigned kindness and proposed to sleep over with me, thereby clearing her own suspicions while making everyone overlook the fact that another person was in her own home. Since the police found no suspicious individuals in the other residents' apartments, they left, allowing her to remain in my home, making it easier for her to attack me. The next day, she used her neighborly status to become the first to discover me. Jake, intending to thoroughly rid himself of Lisa, did not try to stop her but instead planned to report her actions the following day. Uncle Bob had noticed Jake's strange behavior previously. Given Lisa's overly eager demeanor that night, he became suspicious and decided to check the situation on the 18th floor after pondering it more. As he ascended the stairs, he heard my cries for help. After learning all of this, I felt a whirlwind of emotions. The usually gentle and kind Lisa had been so easily deceived in her marriage, willing to harm an innocent person for her husband's lies. And Uncle Bob, despite his own misfortunes, had come to my rescue. With these thoughts in mind, I looked up and smiled faintly at the young officer.
Officer, is Uncle Bob next door? I'd like to thank him personally.